Let go!
Out, boy, move!
Please, he's just a child!
Seigneur, pardonne mes fautes. Garde mes enfants dans ta lumière. Donne-moi le courage d'affronter l'aube. Je remets mon âme entre tes mains.
Seigneur, reçois mon âme. Donne-moi courage pour ce jour.
Before the blade fell on her neck, France's most hated queen endured something far worse than death. They didn't just want to kill Marie Antoinette. They wanted to erase her. Once she ruled from golden thrones beneath glittering chandeliers. Now, she sat in a damp stone cell where the walls wept and the air reeked of rot. Her crown was gone, her jewels stripped, her name reduced to a number. Prisoner 280. Guards watched her every movement. When she ate, when she slept, when she changed her clothes behind a tattered screen. Privacy, dignity, and respect were all luxuries she no longer deserved. This was not punishment. It was the deliberate dismantling of a queen. It began on a summer night, August 2nd, 1793. Revolutionary guards burst into the temple prison. Their orders were simple: separate the queen from her family. Marie clutched her 8-year-old son, Louis Charles, refusing to let go. "You shall not take him," she screamed as her daughter wrapped her arms around them both, trembling. But the guards pried the boy away, dragging him into the dark. His small voice echoed down the corridor until it was gone. She would never see him again. That night, she was taken to the Conciergerie, known as the antechamber to the guillotine, a place where the condemned waited to die. Beside her new cell, the grandeur of Versailles might as well have been another universe. The mattress was stuffed with straw crawling. A single candle barely lit the stone. When she coughed, the sound bounced off the walls like a ghost. And when she prayed, to forget that she had ever been queen. Each day she was forced to endure the humiliation of being observed, like a caged animal. 2 guards stood within arm's reach, watching her eat watery gruel, watching her change her garments. One night, she asked politely for them to turn their backs. They refused. The cruelty was not in what they did, but in how ordinary they made it seem. Weeks turned to months. The silence became her tormentor. Every distant scream, every clang of the iron doors sent her heart racing. She knew that beyond the walls, Paris was boiling with hatred. The same people who once cheered her carriage now shouted for her head. Her maid, Rosalie Lamorlerie, would later say that the queen never cried for herself, only for her children. In the darkest hours of the night, Marie would whisper her son's name, clutching a small lock of his hair hidden in her corset. That was all she had left of him. Then came October. The revolution demanded one final spectacle: her trial. It was less a proceeding than a performance. She was given less than a day to prepare her defense. The charges were a mix of politics and filth, treason, corruption, even incest with her own son. The courtroom buzzed with disgust. The accusation hung in the air like poison. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she rose. She didn't look at the judges. She turned toward the crowd, the working women of Paris, the same ones who had once screamed for her death. "I appeal to all mothers present," she said clearly, her voice trembling but proud. The room fell silent. Even her enemies hesitated. For that single heartbeat of time, she was no longer a queen or a criminal. She was a mother defending her child. But the verdict had been written long before she walked into that room. On October 16, 1793, the jury found her guilty. The sentence: death by guillotine. When asked for final words, she simply shook her head. "What is there left to say?" she whispered. Back in her cell, she refused a final meal. "I need nothing now," she told her maid. "Everything is over for me." Then she sat down to write a final letter to her sister-in-law, begging her to forgive her son for the testimony he was forced to give. The letter would never reach her. At dawn, the guards entered her cell. They ordered her to remove the black mourning dress she had worn since her husband's death. It was the last symbol of her royal grief. In its place, they forced her into a rough white shift, the garb of a penitent, not a queen. When she asked the guard for a moment of privacy, he laughed. "You've had enough privacy for a lifetime," he said. Then came the executioner, Charles Henry Sanson. One of his men grabbed a fistful of her hair that had ghostly white from months of terror, and hacked it off with dull scissors. It wasn't just preparation for the blade. It was ritual humiliation. Her hands were tied tightly behind her back. She winced in pain. "My husband's hands were not bound," she murmured. The guard gave no reply. At 11 o'clock, the iron gates opened. A crude wooden cart waited outside, the kind used for carrying corpses and criminals. King Louis XVI had been taken to his death in a closed carriage, shielded from the crowd. Marie Antoinette would have no such mercy. The cart rattled through the cobblestone streets, her white dress billowing in the cold wind. Tens of thousands lined the road, shouting insults, spitting, hurling rotten food. The revolutionary artist Jacques Louis David stood among them, sketching her pale face as she passed. Once the city had bowed to her beauty. Now it fed on her downfall. Through it all, she did not cry. She sat straight back, eyes fixed ahead. A lone figure surrounded by hatred, yet untouched by it. As the cart arrived at the Place de la Révolution, the guillotine loomed over her, tall, black, and waiting. The crowd roared. The soldiers struggled to hold them back. She climbed the steps alone, refusing the executioner's arm. At the top, she accidentally stepped on his foot. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then she looked at him and said, "Pardon me, sir, I did not mean to do it." Those would be her final words. A moment later, the blade fell. A deafening cheer erupted. The executioner's assistant held her severed head aloft by its white hair, showing it to the mob. "Long live the Republic," they screamed. Her body was tossed into a rough coffin, then buried in an unmarked grave. The revolutionaries believed they had erased her completely, but they were wrong. Even stripped of her crown, her dignity, and her name, Marie Antoinette's final act, that simple apology, became her last victory. In that instant, the woman they tried to destroy reminded the world that grace can exist even in horror, that a queen can die with her head held high, even as it falls.